Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
All right, I've been looking forward to talking to this guy for a long time. He's got a great grasp of what's going on in New York City. He has for the longest time, yet he's never been on this show. But he'll be on now, Hank Sheinkopf. Hank, welcome to Sid and Friends in the Morning. It's nice to have you, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me on, Sid. I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So the mayor needs a bit of a history lesson, this moron, because what happened in 1948, I know you know this, Hank, you're a very smart guy, was that even after the UN got involved in 1947 and they wanted to split up Israel and the Arabs to two states, and Israel said yes. Okay, Israel said yes. In 1948, the Arabs, 5 countries, 5 of them, Egypt, Jordan, a whole bunch of them, Syria, they decided, nah, we changed our mind. We're going to kill all the Jews and take over. But here's what they didn't get. You ain't beating us. So we kicked their asses, and we won. And we made Israel an independent state in 1948. So when this mayor talks about Nakba Day, which is ridiculous in this city, okay, and tweets it out on Shabbos purposely to stick it up the Jews' ass, Hank, Nakba Day, this day where 70,000 Palestinians were displaced, that's a lie. That's not true. They were actually forced out by their own people who decided to start a war and got their asses kicked. That's how that went. You know that, right?
Of course. Of course. And look, the whole issue is a lie. You know, Bernard Lewis, the great scholar on the Middle East and Islam, talked about this 70 years ago that he predicted jihad, and he predicted that because the Arabs would keep losing these wars, they would be humiliated. Muslim people would be humiliated overall and would seek revenge, which is what they've done. If you look at the history of the region, people have to stop lying and ask themselves, where are the Zoroastrians? Where are the Baha'i? Where are the Chaldean Catholics? Where are the Coptic Christians who were once 90% of Egypt? Where are the Assyrian Catholics? What happened to all these people? They were murdered, ejected. I mean, Jews were the largest population in Yemen at one point. What happened to all these people? And why are the black people who are Muslims in West Africa? Why is this the case? This is not by accident. We're talking about people who do not believe in what's the good word? In pluralism, who don't believe that somehow Jews should exist in the region. And it is a source of embarrassment to them. And despite the fact that they killed in Hebron in 1929 is a classic where rape and murder were the act of the day based on a rumor. And that was a constant in pre-Israel mandate Palestine. There's never been a country named Palestine. It's a ridiculous idea. Palestina was created by the Romans after the 70 AD destruction of the Second Temple. And there was a large Jewish population that was allowed to exist, the rabbinic sources that were there. The larger question, Sid, is if this is all successful, the West is finished, because the basic arguments of democracy, which are, the Fifth Amendment is a Jewish idea. Protection of women's rights is in the marriage contract, the ketubah, is a Jewish idea. Incorruptible courts is a Jewish idea. Let's see what else. Property rights, it's expensive, is a Jewish idea. Protection against abuse by government is a Jewish idea.
I'll take it a step further, Hank. I'll take it a step further.
On and on.
Yeah,
so,
no, I'll give it. How about this? How about this?
Yeah.
Christianity is a Jewish idea. I've got Father Casado on here often. The Monsignor comes on Good Friday, comes on all these.
Very, very good man.
He's a great man. And I said, you got to explain to me how any Christian could ever be an anti-Semite. He said, I don't get it either, because the truth is, first of all, Jesus was Jewish, but there is no Christianity without Judaism.
You cannot, what Christianity did, and look, I know a little bit about this stuff. What Christianity did was it attempted to put a spiritual light through the laws as we created them, and that relationship between the two religions is not insignificant. And the church, thank God for the Holy Father, Pope John the 23rd in 1963, ended the great enmity between Jews and the Christian world. the Catholic world anyway. And that was, with the papal encyclical of that year, which ended the calls for destruction of Judaism. So now what we have is a recreation of unfortunately a religion that has not had a reformation, Islam, and the Jews are in the middle of it again because we're not leaving our homeland. And that's where we were. We were there before Islam. Islam's a new religion on the block. They're here since 1,300 years. We're here for 3,500 years, and have been Jews in that country for over, let's say good numbers, over 2,000 years. And the great books that I've talked about, the Torah and the Talmud, describe those kinds of rights and frankly responsibilities of any civilized or functioning system. So we have a complete reversal of ideas here, and we have the left somehow having this delusional idea that there will be a pluralistic society once we're gone. Douglas Murray and others and Melanie Phillips have talked about this, reasonable scholars, that's not going to happen, and the country is at great risk right now.
Couldn't agree more. And start with New York and you talk about the country. Hank, you've been covering local races for a long time. The great Hank Sheinkopf right here. That was also a great little history lesson right there. Somebody said that to Mamdani, what Hank just said. You've been covering the city's politics for a long time. God was good to me. I turned 59 last month. I've never seen anything like this. I've seen horrible mayors. I don't know how you feel about these guys. Doesn't matter. Bill de Blasio was a horrendous mayor. Horrendous. Quite frankly, Eric Adams was a major disappointment. 3 of his 4 years, he did nothing but take care of illegals and all the wrong people in this city. But this guy, I've never seen anything like this. I've made the point in my lifetime, he's probably the most dangerous, that's the word, the most dangerous politician that I've seen in our country. Is that a gross overstatement?
I don't think it's an overstatement. I think that he is to be commended. He is an extraordinarily brilliant communicator. I predicted in January of 2025 that he would be the mayor, and everybody said I was nuts. And you can check the clips on that. I said it publicly. Yeah, check the clips. I said it.
I believe it.
He was the one to watch.
I believe you.
I predicted it, and people said I was out of my mind. But I also said
did you predict that? Right? Did you predict that because you thought he was that good?
I said it on John Katzman's.
No. I believe you said it. My question is, did you say that because you were impressed with him, or was it a combination of him and then looking at Adams, Cuomo, and Curtis? Oh my God!
No. It's more important. It's more. Sid, you have a good combination, but let me add to that. Okay, maybe it'll make some sense. I hope it does. With great respect for you. When you have these kinds of elections, you have what they tend to signify is a major demographic and economic shift in the city. Lindsay, 69 and 65, okay? Giuliani would be, let's see, 93. You have these kinds of extraordinary events that occur where leadership changes because of ethnic and economic changes in the city. The city is going through a major demographic shift. And the great strength of New York historically, and maybe why so many of us feel so much angst, is that demographic shift, which has resulted in the most productive, what was the great line? That how many people could trace their roots to Brooklyn? This great ethnic balance of people leaving New York, being educated, coming to our schools that used to work, and educating people. That they came through that system and they became the most productive immigrant class and second generation and third generation from those immigrants in the history of the world. Is that going to happen again? And is the great promise of New York still what it was? Could a guy like me, I come from a very, very abusive environment, and I was able to get a union job and bring myself up, and ultimately, thanks to a free university, which doesn't exist anymore, get a college education and do the things I did, having worked in, campaigns in 16 foreign countries in addition of what I've done in the United States. I mean, can that happen again? The answer is likely not. And the mayor's job is to ensure that that can happen. But he is dangerous because he doesn't believe that. He believes in a static situation where the state provides sufficient services to keep a static population in place. Why? Because the DSA is not Democrats, but they are socialists. And the laws throughout the state as a country make it impossible for third parties in most cases to get on the ballots. What they've done effectively is they've taken over the carcass of the dead Democratic Party. They're using that, and they're going to elect people around the country, and they're going to change the very nature of the system. That's what he is leading. Anybody who thinks otherwise is just fooling themselves.
No, you're 100% right. And the old Democrats, They're just following along because they're scared to death, whether it's Chuck Schumer. I mean, Schumer was a good guy 20 years ago. He really was. And he's a waste. He's a waste at this point. He's embarrassing himself. And then you get the governor. I mean, she's got to be kidding me. You know, the Long Island Railroad is on strike. She's blaming Trump. She's blaming Blakeman. She's blaming Sid. Wait a second. She found $8 billion for illegals. For illegals, she found $8 billion in the next 2 years to give Mamdani, but she can't figure out a way to get people to work from Long Island? What does she think she's kidding?
You know, the Kathy Hochul tragedy here is that the MTA belongs to her as the governor. And if somebody did an examination of patronage jobs in that agency versus people who are supposed to get things done and how this could have gone on at this level for this long without gubernatorial intervention to get a contract done is beyond me. But that's for another day. I mean, the real question now is what will happen to the city of New York over the next 3 years. You're going to have a continued outmovement of businesses. Why? Because it tends to happen when you have a fiscal crisis. I represent a lot of, in part of my work, I work for an awful lot of unions, both public and private sector, and I predicted with my union clients a year ago that the budget hole would be about $12 billion. So what you heard the other day was the mayor finally admitting it after saying it was 5.4 or 6. No, it's a $12 billion problem. How is it going to get closed? You can't expand government and close it.
No.
And you can't threaten to cut public employee pension payments. That's just not going to go. So this is the great moment. Can this Democratic Socialist run this city in the way he thinks it ought to be run, which creates a national movement and uses the resources available here to make that happen? Or will we have a disaster of sorts? That is the great moment. And can he prevent that? Not sure.
Prevent
where
it.
we are.
He's moving towards it.
Exactly.
It's going to be the latter. So in the final 60 seconds, whether you're Ed Cox or AJ, I don't know who's in charge of the Republican Party in New York, and I've kind of, joked around about running because people want me to run. But, whether Curtis is talking about doing it again, which is beyond ridiculous. He's embarrassed himself, not once but twice, 14%, 7%. You got to stop. John Schell's talking about running. I think eventually Jessica Tisch may jump in, maybe Julie Menon. I don't know. But the point is, if you're going to beat this guy, even if he does run the city into the ground, you got to have a couple of people out there that are worthy and that people are going to trust and like. And the Republican Party in this state, Hank, has not done that. Not at the mayor level. Lee Zeldin ran a very good governor's race, so did Andrew Giuliani, but we lost. When are the powers that be in the Republican Party, Hank, here in New York going to figure out they got to find some real good people to run these races?
Well, that's part of it. They got to find some real good people. But the other thing they have to do is build a party. They don't have one. The history of the Republican Party in New York is an interesting one. If you look at city candidates who won, they won with the Liberal Party line. There is no more Liberal Party. There is no place for people to say, well, I don't like Republicans, but I'll vote on this line to get them there. You have to create a new third party of some kind, and you've got to create a new Republican Party. That is unfortunately, I happen to like the present leadership, but that is more like what Joe Cairo, the Republican county chair, has done in Nassau County, which is to put some fire into it, and Jesse Garcia has done in Suffolk County, which is to put some fire into it and to organize. We don't have that in New York City, and the end result is we have Zoran Mandami, and we're going to have more of it, and we're going to have more people leaving, and we're going to have a class of people. I'm not talking about in the minority community. I'm talking about in the non-minority community who somehow believe that there is a great tragedy placed upon others that they have to correct while destroying the city's economy at the same time. That is a disaster waiting to happen, and it will be unfortunate. And for New York, I said this in the Wall Street Journal, I think, last summer, that our time is over. Question is, can we save enough of it for the next generation? And that is that we face. Because we're talking about people who have never put a callus on their hands, never had a tough day, and have no idea what it really means to struggle. The New York that I grew up in was a place where people strived and struggled. I come from a blue-collar world. That world is being destroyed and evaporated and for purposefulness. And the new blue-collar class is probably the Chinese, and they're the ones that are going to have to come into New York, and they're the ones that are going to have to straighten this out, and other immigrants. And if they don't revolt, the city will turn into who knows what. It'll be diminished in population. It'll be the requirement will be that it be supported by the federal government in order for it to survive.
What a mess. Boy, I got to tell you, Hank, you really are great. I appreciate this morning. I really hope you keep coming back because your perspective is unfortunately on the money. So thank you so much for doing this morning. Stay healthy, keep talking, and come back on the show soon. Okay, pal? Thank you so much.
I'm very grateful. Have a wonderful day.
You too. You too. He was great, man. Hank Sheinkopf. That was a great description of where we're heading.
Get ready, Staten Island. It's time to celebrate 5 years of Very Hots baseball.
Tuesday, May 19th at 10:30 a.m., it's morning baseball. Wednesday, May 20th at 6:30 p.m., have a pawsome time at Bark in the Park. Thursday, May 21st at 6:30, it's Pride Night with $5 Bud or Bud Light draft beer. Individual game tickets start at just $12.
Visit VeryHots.com now to lock in your seats.